Welcome back to Morning Light, and there you have it, the little promo for Camerata Nova's next concert, which takes place this weekend. It's called Isolation. The conductor and curator of this concert is John Wiens. Good morning, John.
Well, good morning to you, Michael.
Welcome back, I should say. You've been here before.
Oh, thanks so much.
Pleasure
it's always great to be here.
It is always great. Even at 8:30 in the morning, it's great to be here.
Oh, I love being here.
You love being here?
I do. I really do.
All
I
right,
especially love the bust.
You especially love the bust. Oh, the bust. I thought you were saying the bus. Okay,
Oh.
you drove in. But we're getting off topic already. Okay, so welcome again. I'm glad you're here to chat about Camerata Nova. Before we start talking about the concert, tell us a little about your background. This is early music, and that is your specialty.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my specialties. It's definitely one of the things that has interested me most in my performing career. When I moved to Montreal 20 years ago, I fell into the early music scene about 3 years in and started doing a lot of concerts with Christopher Jackson and a couple of other early music specialists around town, and I really just fell in love with it and never left.
How did you, okay, well, explain to me, falling in love with it. What was it about the early music that you fell in love with?
Well, there's something about the sonorities, something about the purity of the texture and the purity of the sound. But I think maybe more than that, early music can absorb an extraordinary amount of interpretation, perhaps more so than most other, I think, eras of music. By that I mean that there are layers in the music, rhetorical layers and layers in terms of how they put the notes together that send very clear and individual messages about what the text means. And so that incredible interplay between those two forces developed over a period of a couple of hundred years and made something near the end of the Renaissance that is incredibly eloquent and incredibly wonderful to listen to.
And audiences are going to get a chance this weekend with Camerata Nova. But you also, you do a few other things as well, but you also have a relationship with a couple other choirs as well.
Well, it's not the only thing I'm doing, that's for sure. I've got Polycoro, which is going great guns. It's a chamber choir, a professional choir in town as well. I'm working at Groundswell as their executive director, which has been a joy and a challenge. And next year, we're starting the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra Chorus, and we're going to be doing the Messiah with them. So, yeah, my plate is fairly full.
It sounds like it for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Camerata Nova.
Yeah, please.
And this concert. It's called Isolation.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, the title for the concert and the concept of the concert really, like most concerts that I plan, is trying to tell a story. And in this case, it's the story of isolation and how isolation can both be a positive and a negative. It's centered around a mass by Manuel Cardoso, who was a very well-known musical figure in his day, but he also happened to be in Portugal, and he happened to write polyphony well he died in 1650, so he wrote nothing but high Renaissance style music during all that time. So, the Baroque, we think of the Baroque as beginning in 1650, and there he is in Portugal in 1640 still writing polyphony. He's way behind. So that tells you something really, really interesting and fascinating about the life and times of Portugal as a somewhat isolated country, and this small group of composers still working on a musical style that has been gone for a while. And they're starting to incorporate Baroque elements into it. Like, for instance, in this Mass, you'll hear lots of Baroque elements, things that show up in rhetorical treatises even in 1700 or 1720. They're there in this polyphony. So it's a really unique language. It's a language that nobody else spoke. I think I can say that quite confidently. And so not only were they isolated in terms of being a country, but then in 1755 was the earthquake in Lisbon? that, yeah, right?
Rhetorical question. Historian Michael Wolch here, yeah. Don't quite remember the day.
In 1755, I believe, there was an earthquake that destroyed the vast majority of Cardoso's works. They were all housed in this one central library in Lisbon, and there was a fire. And the fire destroyed not only most of the works of Cardoso, but an extraordinary amount of music. If you go into any music library at a university and you sit down at the section about Portuguese Renaissance music, you're only going to get 12 or 13 volumes. Well, there are 12 or 13 volumes of Gabrielli, just the Gabriellis, right? So imagine an entire country's musical history just essentially being almost completely wiped out. That's what this concert's about. It's about this. It's about these unusual moments of isolation, willing or unwilling.
So how did you comb through all the different works of early music and come up with the ones you did here by Cardoso? We also have Nicolas Gombert, who we're going to play in a few minutes. That's a huge
that Gombert
job.
It is a big job. But I was really lucky. I lived in Montreal for 20 years and did a lot of early music. So I spent a lot of time getting to know these different composers and I guess seeing the storylines that appeal to me so much. In the instance of this piece by Gombert, for instance, it originally was a secular piece. And then they made a contrafacta of it. And they put the contrafacta into a church service. A contrafacta is just a simple idea. You take some religious words that scan well against the secular piece, and you put the religious words onto it, and then you put it into church. And that's still a very common practice today.
Purifies it. Correct.
Something like that. So, but then what happened, the interesting thing that happened then, was that somewhere along the way, someone said, oh, but it also scans well to this other text, and made a contrafacta of that other text and didn't write the name of the composer. And then someone else along the way looked at the composition and said, wow, that's a really good piece. What a beautiful piece. But I have no idea who it's by. I think it's by Josquin, and a legend was born. So, the more we know about early music, the better our research gets, and the farther back we can go, and we can figure out things that we couldn't figure out before.
Now, when you listen to a lot of this early music, as you say, most of it is written for the church. A lot of it's written for the church or performed in the church.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hard if you don't understand the Latin language to get a sense of what they're singing about. So some of these storylines are pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And how does that come across? Sorry to interrupt, but how do the singers make that come across?
Well, a standard strategy that I use is to make sure I program a mass. Masses are still quite common. Most people know what Kyrie eleison means. A lot of people know what Gloria in Excelsis Deo means. Or they still sing it in English or say it in English at some point during their Sunday morning services, often anyway. And so I usually try to do that, but it really is, it's really important to provide translations and to create dialogue and to offer opportunities for, education is the wrong word, but opportunities to break the barrier between, us in our English, French, German, Italian-speaking nation, Filipino-speaking nation, especially here, and Latin, which is, by all rights, a dead language, but one of the most beautiful languages to sing.
It is.
Oh, yes, it certainly is. It's so full of meaning, and it's very lyrical.
I wanted to mention I'm in conversation with John Wiens. We're talking about the Camerata Nova concert coming up this weekend. It's called Isolation. He is the conductor and the curator of it as well. Now, it's not all early music, is it?
No.
We're doing one by a contemporary
brand
composer.
New piece by my good friend Andrew Balfour.
Yes.
Yeah, and what a great piece it is too. I don't want to give anything away, but it's a.
But that's why you're here. Give us the scoop, John. Come
Okay,
on.
all right.
Just get people excited. Why? Tell us about it.
It's a piece that tells a story about a group of men who went off to war, get captured, end up being marched towards a cathedral, and then get left there. And somehow Andrew manages to do all of that in just a few minutes. But it's such an effective piece. Andrew has an extraordinary sense of detail and a fantastic ear. It makes it really easy to interpret. Interpreting Andrew's music is always something that I look at very carefully, but it's always something that I find extremely rewarding. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for people that may or may not be familiar with music of the church, right? I mean, there's a lot of our listeners don't necessarily go to church. Some people do.
Yeah.
The ones that don't go to church, what would be appealing to them about this? Tell us a little bit about that. This is your sales pitch.
The best thing about this concert, I think, aside from the quality of the singing
and the conducting and the curator, I know
I didn't say that, but you can if you like. I think what's great about this piece is all of the different various forces that come together to highlight different elements of isolation and to point out that even from something that can, be as difficult or as negative as isolation sometimes can be, there are some really amazing things that come out of it.
Profound.
Yes, very profound.
Very profound.
Yeah.
Well, audiences have a chance this weekend. That's Camerata Nova's performance. It's called Isolation, and it takes place April 8th and April 9th. And it's going to be a really interesting performance. You can go to cameratanova.com.
Yes.
.ca,
No,
.com.
it's .com.
It
Yeah.
is .com. Wanted to make sure I got that. Cameratanova.com for more information and tickets. I've linked to you, if you go to our website, classic107.com, I linked you over there to get more information and get tickets to the show. John, pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Michael.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Enjoy the beautiful sunshine today.
Thanks.
Now, yeah.
Will I see you at the concert?
I don't know. No promises.
Okay.
I don't ever make any promises. We'll see. But I'm going to play a piece right now from it that you guys are going to be doing. And this features the group you spent some time with.
Oh, the Studio de Musique Ancienne de Montréal.
Led by?
Christopher Jackson.
And you say the name of the piece?
This is the Gombert Tolerant Dominum.
Motet.
Miss you, Christopher.